Woman's terrifying Bigfoot encounter as beast attacked farm in dead of night. A creature described as taller than a farm shed terrified a farmhand as she completed chores, frightening her and the horses kept on the ranch, before escaping into the night. An ex-farmhand has shared a terrifying encounter with a massive beast attacking their farmhouse in the dead of night, which she claims was Bigfoot. Jacqueline Lang worked as a ranch helper in Manitoba, Canada, in 1981, when one evening she was interrupted from working in an oat shed by a large bang. When she went outside, the horses had bolted, but a large creature was standing close by and growled in her direction. Describing the ordeal, she said, "I worked on a horse farm in Manitoba, and on this one winter night, I went to the oat shed when I heard a wham against the back wall. It scared the S***T out of me. I left the shed and expected to see the geldings, but there weren't any. I then heard shuffling next to me in the shadows behind the shed. I backed up until I could see a head and shoulders taller than the line of the shed. It looked one way, then the other, and turned back staring at me. In this moment I didn't have a clue what I was looking at, and then it growled, not a loud screaming growl, but more of a rumbling, and I could feel it vibrating in my chest. I panicked and ran for the barn to get my helper and tell her what I just saw, fearing for the geldings. We both ran back with pitchforks, and it was still there. It again looked one way, the other, and came back looking at us and growled again. We were screaming at it, and it leaned and jumped into the paddock and ran off. They were joined by the farmer, armed with a shotgun, but did not reappear. At around 3 a.m. they were woken by the police, who told them the horses had escaped. When they returned, they found the terrified animals had ran through a wire fence, taking out a post in the process. The next morning's newspaper added to the intrigue, as it included a tale of a police patrolman who reported seeing a tall, hairy thing which jumped across a 10-foot fence. She added, "We just looked at each other like, no way." A few things started making sense, like the oats having to be ordered 2 weeks earlier than normal, the nest made in the straw bales under the blue tarp out back in the morning when turning the mares out. They usually beelined for the door, but this particular morning they ran in circles just beyond the door and came bolting back into the barn. This encounter was almost 40 years ago, and I still remember it like it was yesterday, and I am scared to see one. Matt Moneymaker, president of the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization, said the group receives thousands of reports every year from people believing they have seen the creature. Matt, who had a close encounter of his own before creating the BFRO, said, "I don't see any red flags suggesting the story is fictional or embellished. Everything she describes about the animal is consistent with our understanding of them. They do exist in Manitoba. They are more likely to approach farms in winter, especially where there is livestock, and will pilfer the food for the livestock if they are desperately hungry. They really like oats. If they rifle through a backpacker's stash and find a bag of oatmeal, they'll abscond with that bag and leave the rest. Whereas a bear will tend to eat everything. In the depths of winter, they will sometimes enter barns and make nests in hay piles. That happens in the U.S. too. We would deem it credible if that other witness tells essentially the same story. It would be considered a Class A report." He added, Washington state has the most reports, with most areas heavy with deer, the staple food for Bigfoot. We receive a few thousand reports each year. Most are not clear visual sightings. Most are just reports of unidentified sounds or vague tracks or brush structures, etc. Many other reports are obviously fake. So we only post a few hundred of the few thousand we receive each year.